of the temple is foretold, but it actually meant more than that. It meant the destruction of national Israel from about AD 70 all the way to the end of the church age. Right toward the end of the church age, Israel will be regathered, and it has. May the 14th, 1948. Israel has been regathered now, and God's getting ready to deal with them again. And here we have what a dissertation by Jesus. We're going to go through 1 through 8, actually. Things to come. As he was coming out of the temple ground, temple area, and one of his disciples said to him, "Teacher, look, what wonderful stones, what wonderful buildings." Now the cross references to Matthew 24 and Luke, the 21, 5 through 36. And Jesus replied to him, "You see these things, these great buildings? Not one stone will be left upon another which is not to be torn down." And boy, that's saying more than just that building. Israel is going to be scattered. It's going to be like those buildings are going to be torn down. Israel is going to be torn down and scattered. As he was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter and James and John asked him privately, "Tell us, when will all these things happen? And what will be the sign when all these things are about to be fulfilled?" And Jesus began to say to them, "Be careful and see to it that no one misleads you." I'm going to tell you something. There has been more misleading in talking about the second coming and eschatology in Christendom and in the cultism than anything else. Those that came into existence on this very, the Seventh-day Adventist, the Jehovah's Witnesses, these people came on the idea of the second coming, the end of the world. And it happened back in the 1817 and 1800s. It's still going on, people. "Many will come in my name, misusing my name or claiming to be the Messiah, saying, 'I am he,' and will deceive and mislead many." Now, if you go back into sermon audio and even on Discover the Word with Dr. Jim on YouTube, if you go back to either one of them, you go back in false messianic claimants. I think I did 3 or 4 classes on that. False messianic claims, and I went all the way from the time of Jesus and even before, all the way up until this time. Everyone will say that I am he and will deceive and mislead many. And when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed, frightened, or troubled. These things must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise up against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be earthquakes in various places, there will be famines. These things are the beginning of the birth pains, of the intolerable anguish and suffering. That's where we're going to quit right there. Birth pains. When a woman goes into labor, it means that she's going to have a baby pretty soon. When you see these things happen, it means that something's going to happen. Previews of coming attractions, like you go in a movie theater, and first of all you see is previews of coming attractions, and then you finally get to see the real movie that you came to pay to see there. Now let's go back and read these 8 verses from the Heikaine Diatheke, from the Greek New Testament. Kai, little conjunction again, that tying that last sentence with this one here, from 208 in Analytical Greek Lexicon. I keep quoting that thing. Here it is. Page 444 pages in here. It's all written up. I made a copy of this thing with all of my corrections one time because it hadn't been printed for many times. That's the end of it right there. I added to it quite a little bit. I wrote a Greek grammar. Even though there are many of them out there, I wrote a very brief Greek grammar. There's page 444 right there. And you come all the way over here to the front of it. I quote from this all the time. Everything is marked up on just about every page. There we go. On page 1. And so from this analytic lexicon, which is the best one that I have ever seen, even though it's out of print, I just copied it with all of my corrections in it one time. I should have made an annotated copy of this, which I did, and some of my students had it. It's hard to find, but I like this book. I thought I'd tell you about that. I covered this thing about 30 or 40 years ago because I had worn out the cover on it, and it's got the elk skin cover on it. But I've used it many, many times over many, many years. And Kai ek poruo menu, alto ek tu eru, lege alto ace ton, mate ton, alto dedaskale, ide, potapoi, lithoi, kai, potapai, oiki dame. And going forth. Present participle. Genitive singular masculine, having gone forth of him, out of the temple, ek tu eru. Preposition page 121 there, little ek. I think I'll show this to you here maybe, so you can see that. 121. So you can see in the lexicon what it looks like. Now there's an ek right there on page 121, but it has a lot of writing about it. Then it shows a lot of the words that are made up from ek right there, but it says here before a vowel, preposition from, out of, a place, etc., 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 denoting origin or source. So there you get to see that. And out of the temple area, he says to them, or to him, that is, they say that one of them says to him, one of the disciples, is a habitual learner, mateton, auton belonging to him, didaskale, that's vocative singular masculine, didaskale, os, on a, that's 8 cases. A on the end of it down there, that is a vocative, cases of address. Of him, the teacher, and then it says ide. Ide comes from idon. Second person singular, second aorist imperative active. You behold, you see, what great patopoi, what manner, or what great manner of stones. Lithoi, lithoi stones. And potapai, potapai, what great manner of buildings. Oike dome. Oikos means it means to dome, a dome, it means to dome up. You dome up a house, you build walls, and then you put a roof on it. You dome up a house. Our verse number 2 now. By the way, I was teaching this in a class in 1976. 3:24:76. 13:2. Kai hoe sus e pen auto blepes tautes tas megales oikodomos, u me aphithe, hode, lithos, epilethon, hos, u me kata lethe. And the Jesus. Chi, a little conjunction there. Page 208, and you saw that a while ago. And the Jesus. Jesus is nominative, singular, masculine, definite article. That's whole. Even the definite articles in Greek are inflected. And they tell you what case they're in. This is a nominative case. Case the subject, singular and masculine. And the Jesus, or the one Jesus, Jesus. And what does Jesus mean? That comes from what? Jesus is a Greek word, and it's also a Spanish word, but it comes, the real word there is Yahshua. Yahshua means Jehovah saves. Yahshua means Jehovah saves. And the Jesus, he said, third person singular, second aorist, and dignity acting, that one comes from Lego, to him, to this disciple, one of the disciples. He said to him, Blepes, you see? Second person singular, present, indicative active, you see these things. Blepes, you see these things. Accusative, plural, feminine, demonstrative pronoun. The great. You see these great things? Oikodomos, buildings. Accusative, plural, feminine. Not. Ooh. That's an adverb of negation. Ooh, adverb of negation. And then we have a particle of negation. And here it says, no, not. And this word no here, it means an actively no, noli, literally, if you want to translate it over in our language. Noli, not, no, not, it shall be left. Third person singular, first aorist, and subjunctive passive. It shall, or it may be left, that is. Here, hude, in this place, lithos. Stone, epilethon. Stone upon stone. Which, uk, or ume, kata lethe. There won't be a stone left here that no, not, may be brought down. Third person singular, first aorist, subjunctive, passive voice. That there will not be one stone left upon another stone here that may be taken down or thrown down. Verse number 3 now. Now Jesus is up on the Mount of Olives. And I don't have a picture here of that. I had one for a while. Don't know what happened to it. You're up on the Mount of Olives looking down on Jerusalem. And you got the Kidron Valley in between. I remember when I looked across over there, I could sit there and just imagine Jesus talking. The words that he spoke were spoken right there. Kai ka theemenu, autu eis to oros, ton eleon, katanante, tu eru, epirota, auton ka ideon, petros kai, Jacobus kai. Turn this page here. Ioannes kai Andreas. Kai there, little conjunction again at page 208. And sitting. That's genitive singular masculine, present participle middle voice. And sitting of him in the Mount of the Olives. To horos, oros there. Ton Ilion. Sitting in the mountain, Ace to oros, in the mount, or the mountain of the olives. The mountain of olives. Those trees there, Titus Caesar cut all the olive trees down on the Mount of Olives in AD 70. They cut everything living there down. They sowed the ground with salt, and salt was expensive. They wanted this place to stop being. They wanted to destroy it because they were mad at those Jews. The Jews had taunted them ever since they took over. Now, yes, the Romans did some pretty rotten things to them, but they were trying to rule them with care. They put Pontius Pilate there. And you have to realize now, Herod the Great had got rid of all the original priesthood, the lineage of the priests, and installed more priests. He had destroyed all the lineages of the families so they couldn't prove that one of them could be on the throne, or this one should be a priest. He had them all burned. All the family genealogies were all burned. He was a descendant of Esau. Esau is not the promised son. He is not the heir. But he wanted no one to be able to do it. When Jesus was going to be born, the Magi came. They came to the temple area where the big place is there in the capital of Israel, to Jerusalem, and they were looking for the king that was going to be born. They had seen his time to be born from the east. When Jesus left, or not Jesus, but when the Jews, many of the Jews left the Babylonian captivity, some of the people over there stayed there. They didn't come back. And they carried with them, and they talked about the Messiah to come, and they, you know, you had the Babylonian Talmud, which is down there, 2 whole shelves of the Babylonian Talmud there, the writings of the Jews, the commentaries. Well, some of these Magi, which were magistrates, they were like kings, okay? They came to Jerusalem looking for the Messiah child to be born. And they ran into Herod, and he, you know, said, where's your child? You know, the king's going to be born. So he called for all of the scribes in and the theologians, and he said, where's the Messiah going to be born? They said, oh, in Bethlehem of Judea. Okay. He said, I'll tell you what, you go over there and look for him, and when you find him, you tell me, and I'll come and worship him too. But he was going to kill him. He was going to kill him. He did everything he could do. He killed his own children. He killed his own children. You know, sometimes a child would kill the father to take over the throne. He was afraid of that. He was afraid of everything. He had gotten his degree from Antony and Cleopatra. His what you might call his kingship, his reign from them, not from God. Satan has always been busy, you know. Now we're going to get over here to 13. Kai katathimanu, auto eis to ros. So sitting in the Mount of Olives, opposite the temple area of the temple, to Hiron, epirota, he kept on questioning him privately. He kept on interrogating him privately. Third person singular perfect indicative active from epi-orato. Epi is strengthens the word and makes it more intense. He really intensely interrogated Jesus privately. Kat idiom. Now kata is the word there, except it's shortened kat idiom. Kat idiom. So you could flow a little better for what we call for euphony. Petros, Peter, and James, Kai, Jacobus, and John, and Andrew. Peter. They all kept on questioning him privately. Peter means a stone. It means a little stone. It means something you can pick up and throw. Petra, Jesus said, when they, in Matthew the 16th chapter, Peter said, he said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, that wasn't revealed to you. You didn't learn that in the synagogues in Galilee. You learned it from your Father who is in heaven. And he said, Peter, you're Peter. You're Peter, a little stone. But upon this gigantic Petra, this is the gigantic stone like the Rock of Gibraltar, or that stone there on top of the whole Mount of Olives, or the whole what we call the mountain where the temple area was. It was all a big rock. That kind of rock. He said, upon this gigantic rock I shall be building my church, and the gates of hell shall not wrestle her down. That's a flat statement now, Matthew 16 and 18. Now Peter and Jacob and James. James means to follow the heel. James is Jacob. Same name as Jacob. Jacobus is the same thing as Jacob. Jacob. And Ioannis, John. John means dove. It means gentle. And Andreas. Andrew means manly. And so all of these, and by the way, the cross references in the Synoptics is Matthew 24, 3 through 14, and Luke 21, 7 through 9. Verse number 4 now. Apon, Himen, Pote, Tauta, Este, Kai, Ti, To, Simeon, Hotan, Mele, Tauta, Sin Telestia, Ponta. And then it says here, you tell, you say, second person singular, second aorist imperative active from Lego, you say to us. That little himen there, that's dative plural, first person pronoun. You say to us, pote, when. This is a little interrogative particle with a question in it. Interrogative particle. These things, a little nominative plural neuter, demonstrative pronoun, shall become for themselves. That comes from Amy. That's third person singular, future indicative middle voice. Shall become for themselves. And are also here. Here, Kai can be also. That's a cumulative particle, okay? But it's all under page 208. You can read it all there. When shall be, and also what? A little interrogative there, a little interrogative. That T, what? The. Simeon, the sign, or the token, or the proof of. Nominative singular neuter, the proof of. When, little conjunction, ote and on, put together, may be about to happen. Third person singular present, subjunctive active, when they may be about to happen, be about, that comes from mellow. These things, tauta, to come to an end. Sin teleste. Tin teleste. That's in present, infinitive, passive voice. When they may be caused to happen, when all these things may be caused to happen. When everything is brought to an end. Everything is consummated. 13 and verse 5 now. Hode Jesus ex auto, legain autois, lepete, me tis hamos, planese. Moreover the Jesus. Muy conversive conjunctive particle, page 85. There. That day. And then ho, nominative singular masculine, definite article, the Jesus, Jesus. He began for himself to say, ex auto, third person singular, first aorist indicative middle voice. That's where he began for himself to say, legain. That's a present infinitive active from Lego. Lego, legace, legay, legoto, legomen, legati, legusi, legain. So that's legain there. He says, or to say to them, dative plural, third person pronoun, you see. You see, blepete. Take heed. Second person plural, present indicative active from blepo. Not, a particle of negation, not, page 268 by the way, not anyone of you all may be led out of orbit. Planese. Third person singular, first aorist, subjunctive active. What comes from planeo? We got a word planet. A planet is in an orbit. But when a planet gets out of orbit, that's what we got, a wandering planet out there. That's what they used to call these falling stars in the sky. Something that got out of orbit and it's falling. It's falling, going out astray. All during the church age, in spite of all the things that Jesus said. And he tried to paint a picture of what was going to happen. Now, like I said, the destruction of the temple is more than just the destruction of the temple. It is the destruction of national Israel for a time. Israel will not exist for a time. They're going to be scattered all over the world. They're going to be kicked around. They're going to be abused. The Jews were such cheap labor that they bought a Jew and would work him until he died and not feed him, because they could buy another one cheaper than feeding him. And the Lord kept them together by a miraculous. He kept his seed out there. He kept a source of these Jews all the time, but they had no nationality until May the 14th, 1948. Verse number 6 now, Toloi, Elusanto, Lusante that is, Epi to onomate, mu legontes, Hoti ego emi, Kai, Palus, Planesusen. They shall come for themselves, middle voice, many, upon, little preposition there, page 153 and 4, the name, they shall come upon the name of me, or in my name, to onomate, mu, the name of me, saying, not only plural masculine, present participle galactic, saying they're going to continue to say this. Just look down what's happened. Down through the ages. Look what's happened. Now, I'm going to go into some of the cause. Up here, about 595 or so, 563 I think is when 570 when Muhammad was born. And basically Muhammad took all the promises of Messiah and applied them to himself. He is going to be the judge. He's going to be all the things that Jesus did, he applied to himself. And he calls his name Islam. That means to surrender. His whole group is Islam, to surrender. We had Joseph Smith come along and said God was unhappy with all the churches, and that he decided to start a reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Brigham Young took off after him, and there's another group of Mormons. But the only problem with all of that is Jesus said he'd build his church and the gates of hell could not wrestle it down. So all these are false prophets. We got all of these people. You've got Jim Jones, you've got all of the cults out there. All of them's got an answer. But every one of them ignored the churches of Jesus Christ. They were here all the time. Sometimes underground, and they said, well, church history is the history of the Catholic Church. No, it's not. Catholic Church was one of the, in 325 when Catholic Church began, after a little while, she began to persecute all of the Christians that would not belong into the Church Universal, the Church Catholic. And she destroyed and killed and murdered. We have the Inquisition. We read here in church history from the churches of the valleys of the Piedmont, the people had been so brutally killed and murdered and lacerated and cannibalized. The Lord's church will be here until he comes back. Not because of us, but because of him, the promise. Many shall come upon the name of me, saying that I am ego eimi, and many they shall be led astray. third person plural, future indicative active. They shall be led to wander away from the truth. Verse number 7 now. Hotan de akusete, polemus, kai, akous, polomenon, me, froeste, de, genese, al, hupo, to, telos. Moreover, when. Weak adversive conjunctive particle, page 85, that little day there, and then when. That's a conjunction. It is a whenever, actually. Ye may hear. Akusate, second person plural. First aorist, subjunctive active, when you may hear wars, polemus, and akuos, that rumors, hearings of wars, polemon, not, ye be disturbed, ye be tempted. Don't clamor over the second person plural present, imperative passive. Don't be caused to be disturbed or clamored or. It is necessary, day, second person singular, impersonal, present impersonal, verb there. It means it is absolutely necessary, it is bindingly necessary to happen, to become. Second aorist, infinitive middle voice, to become for itself, but, strong adversative conjunction, page 15 now. Not yet. A little adverb here. Not yet. The end. It's not yet the end. When you see all these things happen, it's not yet the end. And now, verse number 8, the last one that we're going to read here in this message. Erger thesate, gar ethnos, epi ethnos, kai basilia, epi basilion, esonte, seismoi, kata tupos, esonte, lemoi, arche, odinon, tauta. For it shall raise up, be caused to raise up. That's passive voice there, third person singular, first future, passive and indicative mode. For, that little particle or casual particle there, page 75 there, gar, it shall raise up, cause to raise up, nation, ethnos, epi, ethnos, little epi, page 153 and 4. It's shortened there, and this is a quotation from the Old Testament. It's all in capitals in Greek. Epi, ethnos, kai, basilia, epi, basilia, osontai. And nation against nation and kingdom against nation. And they shall become for themselves earthquakes. Seismos. We got a seismic counter. That's where it comes from, is this Greek word seismos there. By the way, the Greek language is the scientific language, the word medical and scientific language. The Latin language is the what we might call the legal language, because the Catholic Church can control, and they were in control of all legal things, and the language, the Latin language, is what they put it in, not Greek, which the Word of God is in. Earthquakes according to places, kata, tupos, and they shall become for themselves, esonte, third person plural future, indicative middle, and then limoi, that means famines. That's not the plural, masculine, famines. Beginning of odinon, that means birth pains. Adine, that's birth, that means pain. These are the beginning of birth pains. That's when a woman is getting ready to go into labor, she starts having contractions. That's what it's talking about. This is only the contractions of the end. Now we know that the world's in a mess right now. It's in a mess. We got wars all over the place, all over right now. And one thing that we saw in May the 14th, 1948, was Israel was called back again to be a nation again by God Himself. He set them aside, he demolished, he destroyed national Israel after they crucified him, and they were cast about for nearly 2,000 years. But now God is drawing them back because he's going to deal with them. The whole reason for the second coming is to bring Israel back to God. If you look over here, here's the church age. At the end of the church age, God is going to deal with Israel again, and Israel will become the administrator of God's kingdom for 1,000 years. Epites gaze, el haaretz, upon the earth, the real earth, going to be centered in Jerusalem, the real Jerusalem, over there in the Middle East, right there, in that area. That's where God's going to deal from the whole world with. Israel's going to deal from right there in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. It took Donald Trump to do that, didn't it? Before they would go to Tel Aviv, but now he recognized Jerusalem as the real capital of Israel, which it is, and it will be for 1,000 years there. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from all of these classes. Please give us your prayers and support if you possibly can. We need your help right now. Going through some rough times, and I just asked you to pray for us and help us financially if you possibly can. Our Father, we send this message out for your honor and glory. Please forgive me where I fail you, and use your word wherever it goes. In Jesus' name.